What's going on, everybody? MrJ Gilbert here, and in 2025, I managed to beat 23 different games. In this video, I'm going to review for you those games and say what I think about them. I'm going to be rating each of these games after I give my review on a must-play, play if you want, or you're not really going to miss anything scale. The first set of games that we're going to go over are all the multiplayer games. Now, you can't technically beat these games, right, because they're ongoing, but I did spend a pretty good amount of time in them. First up, we got Marvel Rivals. It was an absolute phenomenon when it came out, and it really nails that superhero power trip. Destructible maps are nice, which makes countering and rotating around behind the enemy team very tactical. The team-up passes are nice and bring a nice variety to your hero selection because of the different team-ups rotate. Honestly, for me, the sweat factor just became too much. What started out as a fun brawler really turned into a sweat fest where everybody was playing like there's money on the line. If you aren't running the exact meta comps or hitting perfectly timed ultimates, you're cooked. It's kind of reached a point where the skill floor is so high that if you aren't grinding 24/7, then you're just going to be left in the dust. It is a very polished game. It's a high tier game, but I've definitely kind of checked out from it. I miss vibing as my favorite heroes, but every now and then the lobbies just kind of feel too pro for me, right? Huge W for the hardcore competitive scene. I'm not going to I'm not going to take that away from them, but a casual player like me, it just kind of got drowned out by the grind. Overall, I would say it's a play if you want. Next up, we got Battlefield 6. Now look, give it up for Battlefield 6. Massive W for the franchise. After the rocky road that it's been over the past few years, this truly feels like a successor to Battlefield. And the combat system makes the movement feel incredibly fluid. It's the return to the classic class system, that fixed team play dynamic, that that was missing. The destruction's also next level. They've done a really, really great job with being able to destroy almost everything in the game. And it makes it very tactical to where you can, take out the floor beneath a sniper, take out the whole building if you have to. It's really made for a different dynamic within fighting. But I'll be honest, my vintage reaction times, I will say, the game has just become exhausting. The sliding and the combat rolls and about 50 different animations happening all over my screen at once, my brain just can't keep up. Now, the game is a lot of fun. High octane, visually beautiful, but for me, I just kind of lost track of my targets and all the chaos that was going on around me. So, objectively, fantastic game, but the speed of play is just too cracked for me to enjoy past a few matches. But if you do have the reflexes of a pro leaguer, you're going to love it. So, but for me, beautiful game, and I'll just kind of play it here and there. Overall, I'd give it a play if you want. Next up, we got Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders is currently the go-to game for gamers these days. The world looks absolutely fantastic. The sound design for those machines are terrifying. It kind of gets to a point where you can distinguish the sound between them, and you know what's chasing you. But when you actually have a squad that uses their mics, the tactical comms in this game is god tier. Being able to kind of argue your way out of a situation or beg for your life or even just trade mid-game has really made for a different level of immersion. The gunplay is crisp, loot loop is super addictive, but the player base has gotten really toxic lately. In the early days, you could actually find friendlies, but now everything's turned into a PvP fest. Sometimes, occasionally, when you're going in solo, you can get some friendlies, but if you're squatted up with anybody, it's almost a shoot-on-sight type of situation. Now, I love the area voice chat, like I said before, instant cinema. Overall, it is a massive W, very polished, the mechanics are nice, the friendly player thing is kind of going out the window, but overall, the game has really shifted from the killing the arcs to killing each other. And it's kind of made for a fun dynamic. You never know what you're going to do in the distraction shooter. You never know if you're going to be able to get out alive. But overall, I would actually give it a must play. Next, I want to talk about a couple of DLCs that I beat. First up, we have Star Wars Outlaws, A Pirate's Fortune. It's a bit of a mixed bag, honestly. But if you're just here for the Star Wars vibes, it's there. The new planetary hub looks incredible, and the scoundrel fantasy is still there. Flying your ship through nebula clouds, hitting up space pirate cantinas feels exactly like living in George Lucas's storyboards. Not Disney, of course, because Disney has ruined Star Wars. But the aesthetic is a W, and the world building for the criminal underworld actually has gotten a little bit better. Unfortunately, if you're looking for a deep narrative, this whole game kind of missed the mark. The character development for Kay Vess basically stalls out, and she's just going through the motions without any real growth. The plot itself feels just like a generic fetch quest chain that you'd find in a mid-tier side mission. New villain, unfortunately, is also forgettable. It sucks because the sandbox of Star Wars is so fun to vibe in, but this game doesn't have the story to match. If you're a Star Wars completionist, you'll want to play this game, but don't expect really any high emotional payoff or like, oh wow, type of moments. Overall, I would give it a, you're not going to miss much. Next, we got V Rising, Invaders of Oakville. It's a massive W, and honestly, it feels like the developers just get it. This update DLC combo is a vampire fantasy to the max. The new Oakville Woodlands biome is absolutely stunning, but also terrifying. Cursed forest vibes and that creepy enchanted fog make it one of the most immersive areas in the game. The new weapons are a blast, the claws, the twin blades, even the throwing daggers. They feel incredibly fluid, especially if you like high mobility. The blood homogenizer and the new corrupted blood type adds so much depth to the game, and you could finally actually mid-max your way, to a ridiculous degree. Now, whether you're a solo PvE or a hardcore PvP sweat, this update adds a lot of meat to the bones of the game. If you haven't been in Vardorane lately, you're missing out. It's actually a really, really good survival crafting game with that vampire feel, and honestly, I would give it a must play. My only dabble into the city builder genre this year was Anno 117, Pax Romana. Massive W for anyone that loves city building. We'll jump into ancient Rome. Big W. Cities look gorgeous. The new diagonal building that you have that you can build instead of just on a grid now. Actually a game changer because it makes layouts fun. You can actually make it look like a city and actually put cul-de-sacs and things like that in the game when you couldn't really do in the previous titles. The natural feel, right, is kind of back because of the angled roads that you features like the dual province system, Latium and Albion, back kind of like it was in Anno 1800, and the new religion belief mechanics add a lot more flair to how you want to set up your island. Here's a hot take. I loved Anno 1800. But I feel Anno 117 has a much more steep learning curve. Okay? Anno 1800 was very deep, and Anno 117 cranks up the complexity to 11. Being able to manage citizens' moods, to the proximity buffs of local buildings, much more UI density. It just kind of feels overwhelming at first, and it takes a while to truly get into it to understand it. Where I thought Anno 1800 was a little more easier and streamlined, like, oh, you just do this step, then add this step, then add this step. Anno 117, there's a lot more layers on it that you have to, like a puzzle. You have to kind of make sure all the pieces fit just right. Now, it's a top tier management system. If you're a hardcore sweat, because you can mid-max everything, but for casual fans, like I was saying, it's going to take a little bit more to kind of pick up and play. I love the vision. I definitely do miss the slightly easier approach, or it felt like an easier approach in Anno 1800. But overall, it is a great game. And I will say, if you are a city builder enthusiast, definitely a must play. The only MMO style game that I've played this year, aside from New World, rip, Dune Awakening. Dune Awakening is a massive vibe for any sci-fi fan. The world building is absolute fire. Walking out in the open desert for the first time and seeing a sandworm breach, it's a core memory right there. The survival mechanics are actually rewarding instead of being a chore. Managing your still suit, hunting for shades is very stressful at times. Plus, the base building has gotten even better, although I do think they need a lot more cosmetic options. Being able to blueprint a massive fortress and then sell the designs on the exchange is such a unique flex for the genre. The combat feels weighty, and the spice blows create some of the most intense, emergent gameplay that I've actually seen in total chaos when 3 different clans descend on one spot for the spice. But here's the L take for the Once you hit the level cap and establish your foothold, the end game is kind of a total snooze fest. After you've geared up, it basically turns into a repetitive spice mining simulator. No real stakes. The faction wars feel a bit hollow since there's no meaningful way to actually change the map. And then once the wow factor of Arrakis wears off, then the gameplay loop just isn't it. I'm glad I did play it, don't get me wrong. The first 40 hours or so of the game, amazing. Just the end game that lost me. It's gorgeous, very polished, but I've already kind of hit my end game cap, if you there isn't enough in-game meat to kind of keep me back, but I will come back in April, I believe, when the new update drops. There's going to be lots of changes to the game, so I'll be excited to jump back into that. Overall, I will say, as of right now, until the game gets a little bit more busier and we get more players back into the game, I'm going to say that you might not be missing much. These next couple of games, I put them in a community games type of category. You really play them and enjoy them most with a community or a group of friends. First game, RV There Yet. It's the ultimate friend W of 2025. It's basically a road trip from hell simulator where you and 3 friends are piloting this physics-defying RV through the wilderness. And if you're playing solo, it's kind of an L. Very frustrating, almost impossible, but there's still a lot of fun with it. But it's on full display when you're with a squad and you're on the comms and it's just chaos all around. The game thrives on the physics of failure. 1 minute you're vibing, grilling mystery meat burgers and smoking cigarettes to get a speed boost, and the next your driver accidentally winches the RV into a tree and yeets the entire vehicle into a canyon. The synergy is key. You need someone on the map, someone handling the manual gears, someone ready with the bear spray if things go south. Yes, it is buggy, janky, and your items will definitely clip through the floor at some point. But honestly, that's where all the comedy comes from. It's not a deep game, and the road home is basically one big, beautiful disaster. But for the price of a coffee, it's some of the best multiplayer fun you will have this year. If you got a crew that loves yelling at each other while everything explodes, this game is definitely a must-play. Next, Schedule 1. Schedule 1 is a total sleeper that just came out of nowhere and dominated the space. The cozy crime aesthetic, super fun. There's something weirdly chill about managing your herb garden and crummy motel while listening to lo-fi beats, turning every chore from bagging products to watering plants into a snappy mini game that makes the grind feel incredibly rewarding. It nails the just one more day. Running a crew of friends co-op is pure chaos, but in the best way possible. Here's the reality check. The game has a serious in-game drought, though. Once you've automated your labs and bought up all the high-tier properties like the Docks Warehouse, you're basically just watching numbers go up. There's no real final boss move or a narrative climax to work towards. You just reach the top of the food chain and then you realize there's no more food. It's a top-tier vibing game with high fidelity loot, but until they drop more campaign content or a true kind of kingpin endgame, it's easy to feel like you've just beaten it way too fast. Definitely worth the grab, though. That first 30 to 40 hours, pure addiction. Just don't expect the kind of long-term grind. Overall, I'd give it a must-play. Next, Split Fiction. Split Fiction is low-key one of the most unique co-ops to hit the scene. Since It Takes Two. Wait, they're by the same developer. The whole gimmick of the map literally splitting and shifting mid-match, tons of fun. It completely kills that boring side-scroller vibe. The co-op interactions are a ton of fun, and the art style is super cool. I'll be honest, jumping in with your extrovert friend makes it a totally different game. And when you've got that duo partner who's very, how do I say this, vocal, these split mechanics go from interesting to chaotic real fast. Coordinating timing puzzles while the environment is literally folding and moving in different angles is insane. It's the kind of game that rewards communication and high-level game sense, turning levels or side missions into enjoyable experience. Overall, this is definitely a must-play with your significant other, best friend, content creator, or community member. Won't regret it. It is a must-play. This next game gets put in the action-adventure category. Monster Hunter Wilds. Monster Hunter Wilds is finally in a state where I can say it's worth checking out. At launch, back in February 25, the game was honestly a bit of a technical disaster. I mean, we're talking potato mode textures, stuttering that would ruin your combos, some seriously sketchy optimization that really needed addressed. It felt undercooked, and the lack of a meaty in-game had a lot of veterans, as myself, side-eyeing that initial hype of the release. But as we fast forward to late 2025, the Capcom has seriously kind of redeemed themselves, if you will. This most recent title update 4 was a massive W. The performances have gotten better, and they finally fixed some blurry texture issues that were killing the vibe. But most recent, the return of Gogmazios and arch-tempered monsters has given that sense of a tough fight that the veterans were looking for. It's finally injected those high-stakes challenges. The weather-driven ecosystem and the secret movement feel a lot more polished now. I'll be honest. At the beginning, I don't know how I felt. I'd really like the secret having the mount the whole time, but now seeing the maps and seeing how all the movement of the monsters throughout the fights, you really need a mount. And the secret has really grown on me, and I think it's a nice addition to the game. But the seamless hunt to base flow is easily the best in the series so far. It went from maybe wait for a sale to honestly a must play right now. If you got it off at launch, then yes, the lag and the lack of in-game could have steered you away, but I think it's time to get back in the lobby. As of right now, beginning of 2026, I will say that Monster Hunter Wilds is a must play. The next couple of games I like to call Choice Matters. Quarry is absolutely beautiful. And I'm actually shocked that it took me this long to try any choice-driven game. As a first-timer to this genre, I was worried that it might be a bit lackluster, compared to the high-action shooters that I'm used to, but I was wrong. The visuals are great. The facial animations are so realistic that it almost feels like you're just directing a horror movie. Stakes are incredibly high because every dialogue check or quick time event actually matters. I lost the character a couple hours in because I made one bad call. I had that FOMO of, well, what could have happened? What should I have done? And it kind of kept me glued to the screen. It's peak couch co-op material too, but even if you're playing solo, you're constantly second guessing every choice. Like, did I just send this guy to his death? This was my first playable movie experience. I didn't realize how much the branching storylines would actually hook me. The vibe is pure 80s slasher nostalgia, and while the gameplay is definitely more relaxed than I usually play, the tension is top tier. The massive win for anybody looking for a vibe-heavy game where decisions actually carry weight. If these types of games are not for you, then I would give it a play if you want to. Detroit Become Human is a certified 10 out of 10 masterpiece. If you're a fan, or even if you're not, of these story-driven choice games, Quantic Dream absolutely cooked with them. The graphics and motion capture are still amazing 8 years later. The micro expressions on the characters' faces make the emotional hits way harder than your average cinematic title. The real MVP of the game, though, is the branching narrative. Unlike some games where choices matter, as a marketing meme, Detroit actually has the receipts. The flowchart system at the end of each chapter is awesome. It shows how much of the story you actually could have shifted, or how much of the story you've actually unlocked if you made a different call. Whether you're playing as Connor, the best boy detective, Marcus, who's leading a revolution, or Kara, who's just trying to survive, the stakes feel incredibly high. The chemistry between Connor and Hank, especially top tier, well written, and their dynamic alone carries the game. So if you love a choose your own adventure, actually has consequences and looks like a high budget Hollywood flick, this is a massive W. It's one of those rare games that just stays in your head long after the credits roll, because you always want to know, what if? What if I would have done this? What if I would have selected this path? And it makes you want to go back and play it. Overall, I would definitely give this a must play. Finally, we get to the biggest category and the bulk of the game I enjoy, the RPGs. First, Lego The Hobbit. Back at the beginning of the year in January is National Lego Day. Well, I decided for the very first time in my life to play my first ever Lego game. Yes, that's right. I've never played a Lego game before until this year. And I decided, because I love Lord of the Rings, why not jump into Lego Hobbit? Get me started. So I took that plunge, Lego Hobbit. It's actually a lot of fun. I mean, as a massive Lord of the Rings nerd, I wasn't sure if the plastic block aesthetic would ruin the vibe, but it actually does the opposite. It plays like a playable love letter to Middle Earth. The way they recreated Bag End and Rivendell and that signature Lego charm is actually kind of fun. Hearing the actual voice lines from the movies was a great addition to the gameplay loop is super chill but addictive, just like any Lego game, I assume. Breaking everything in sight for the studs is weirdly satisfying. The puzzles are the right amount of brain-dead fun after a long day. I loved how each dwarf had a unique ability that makes party mechanics feel meaningful, instead of just having a bunch of clones. Even though it's a kid's game, the scale of the world is actually huge. Exploring the Shire or trekking through mountains feels epic, and in brick form. Since it was my first LEGO title, I was shocked by how much humor they managed to cram into the cutscene. It's genuinely funny without it being too cringe. If you're a Tolkien fan who's been sleeping on these types of games like I was, I would check this one out. It's a great way to experience a story without the sweat of a hardcore RPG. Total fun, and it's definitely ready to check. I'm ready to check out the other. So for me, I would give it a must play. Next, Dying Light 2 is a massive parkour playground that honestly feels like a dream to play. The first person movement is so much fun. Chaining wall runs, the paraglider swoops makes the Villador map feel just like an urban jungle. The combat has some serious weight to it now, and the choice and consequence system, where you get to pick and choose which faction you side with, actually makes you feel like you're shaping the city. But I've got to keep it real. The nighttime, honestly, is a major nerf to me. When I played the first Dying Light, when it turned nighttime, I was scared. Literally did not want to be outside. I know I'm playing a video game, and I didn't want to be outside. But playing Dying Light 2, I wasn't as scared. You could evade a lot easier. You could hide a lot more places, and I didn't have that same threat of nighttime. So that kind of knocked off the vibes for me a little bit. The volatiles were still terrifying. The atmosphere was pure nightmare, but it just didn't feel as intense. The immunity timers in certain areas is how much easier it is to lose a chip. It just didn't really all match for me. The primal fear factor is basically gone. It's less survival, horror, and more neon light tag. Don't get me wrong, it's a high tier action game, and the combat is an absolute blast with the homies, but I'd missed that kind of scared to leave the safe zone energy. It's a great sequel, but it definitely traded some of the horror DNA for some more accessible gameplay. I would give it a play if you want to. Next, Mafia Definitive Edition is an absolute W of a game. It was my first ever time touching a Mafia game, and it's honestly one of the best narratives too. It's the second that you hop into Tommy Angelo's shoes, made man fantasy. The vibes in Lost Heaven are immaculate. Cars, the suits you can make, you're starring like a high budget Scorsese flick. You know what that is, Tommy? The game isn't just a basic remaster, it's a full-on glow-up. The lighting, character models, top tier, the voice acting goes so hard that it actually makes you care about the family. Most open world games are kind of this checklist, right? But this kept me locked in because of that gangster atmosphere. Trust me, you could feel it. Whether you're doing a high-stakes drive-by or just cruising the city in a vintage bolt bucket, it nails that 1930s underworld energy perfect. If you've never played a Mafia game before, this is ultimate entry point for you. It's tight, it's cinematic, and it makes you feel like a total boss. Massive win for anyone who just wants a story-driven game, not a huge open world, and it doesn't bloat your playtime. Mafia Definitive Edition is a must-play. Next, Avowed. Avowed is solid, but it's definitely not the Skyrim killer. Some people are trying to hype it up to be. Now, don't get me wrong. The vibrant lands are nice, but the art direction is gorgeous and the color palette is a W compared to the drab grays of most fantasy RPGs. The dual-wielding combat does feel snappy. Being able to split spells with one hand and parry the sword in the other makes it from satisfying a gameplay that, you can have some interchangeability. The story is decent, right? The companion banter is okay. The acting is meh. But the whole experience just feels a bit safe. It's classic Obsidian RPG through and through, but it never really takes any big swing. The quest design is pretty standard. Go here, kill that, talk to him. World felt a little bit smaller on the rails than I thought an Obsidian game would be. It's kind of got a double A polish to it. And it lacks those whoa moments. The game truly feel legend. I definitely enjoyed the playthrough. I don't regret playing the game, but I don't have any need to go back and play it. It was like, okay, I played it, I experienced it, it was fun, but it wasn't special. That being said, I would probably give it a play if you want to. Maybe you're not missing much. Next, The Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds is honestly a sleeper hit that is better than I expected it to be. Even years later, the space western vibes, the dialogue is genuinely funny, the companion characters have a little soul to them, just everything is okay. The classic Obsidian DNA is there, where your choices actually feel like you're shifting the world in this retro future aesthetic, and it makes you feel that every planet needs to be explored. I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I actually enjoyed this way more than Avowed. While Avowed has that flashy first-person fantasy combat, feels a bit more on the rails, the sterilized, compared to the chaotic freedom of the Outer Worlds. The Outer Worlds and the role-playing depth is just deeper than Avowed was. You can be a total hero, corporate shill, or even just a chaotic space hobo. Avowed feels like a solid RPG, but it lacks that weirdness, right? The personality that makes Outer Worlds a little bit better. The gunplay in Outer Worlds might not be as cracked, as modern shooters are, but the time dilation and the hilarious science weapons make it really fun to be in gunfights. And if you want a game that's has actual chest hair and personality, the Outer Worlds is actually the game for you. With Outer Worlds 2 recently out, it's nice to kind of see that progression of the storyline and progression of the franchise. So I would say play if you want to. 2A must play if you're interested in Outer Worlds 2. Next, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Kingdom Come Deliverance is a straight up masterpiece. Let's be real. The first 5 hours are an absolute skill issue simulator where you're going to be pulling your hair out and you're going to want to quit the game. Trust me. I had that come to Jesus moment where I'm like, do I even want to play this stupid game? I hate this game. But I stuck it out. At the start, Henry is a total scrub who can't even swing a sword without tripping over his own feet. The combat system is really clanky and punishing. I'm not going to lie, like I said, I wanted to quit the game. I'm like, I don't even care anymore. But if you just push past that initial wall and just kind of give the game a chance, it is one of the most rewarding RPGs ever made, I feel. The world's incredible, it feels lived in, the attention to detail is amazing, and once the story actually gets going, you realize that you're playing this role-playing fantasy, that you are this hero that is rising to the top of the ranks. The immersion is what really carries the game. Finally learn how to master the combat and start winning duels. The payoff is immense, and you actually feel like you've earned it. The writing and characters are so engaging that I found myself almost losing track of time, just vibing in the bohemian countryside. It is a slow burn that definitely tests your patience more than once, but overall, if you want a deep, hardcore RPG, you should definitely play Kingdom Come Deliverance. Next, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a literal masterclass in how to evolve a genre. If you grew up in the golden era of Final Fantasy, this game is going to feel like a homecoming. The turn-based combat is absolute fire, and it's got that classic strategy depth that we all miss. It adds that reactive layer to where you can dodge and parry in real time, but it keeps the flow of that feeling snappy and modern. The real MVP, though, is the writing. It's a total emotional roller coaster. And you aren't just grinding levels, you're actually invested in the characters. They march toward basically what a suicide mission to stop the Paintress. And the narrative really pays off as you branch throughout the story. It's rare to find a game that feels this polished without a high budget sticking to it. You've been waiting for this game that captures that old school Square Enix magic with the next gen visuals and a story that doesn't treat you like a casual. I'll be honest, I loved this game, but I kind of hate how many awards it is getting. It's getting so much attention and so much praise that it kind of takes away from the niche coming out of nowhere marketing. But overall, I will say this is definitely a must play. Next, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a massive W, and honestly, it's the game that saved Star Wars single player. After years of multiplayer focused titles, finally getting a narrative driven experience that isn't just mid was such a relief. The story of Cal Kestis is a total slow burn that actually paid off. Seeing him go from a traumatized scrapper to a legit Jedi Knight felt earned. It's the first time in ages where I genuinely felt invested in the characters, where the lore was going. The gameplay is kind of a Souls-light type of game. The combat is weighted and satisfying. There's nothing quite like hitting a perfect parry on a purge trooper and flashing in with a super clean saber strike. The Metrovania style world design on planets like Zepho and Dathomir, kept me hooked, and having BD1 as a companion was a nice addition. He's easily one of the best droids in the entire franchise. Sure, the map can be a bit of a headache to navigate, and the sliding segments are a little janky, but those minor L's compared to the overall package, it's a high fidelity, high stakes journey that actually respects the source material. And if you want a Star Wars story that actually has heart stakes, then you're going to want to play this one. Overall, this is a must play. Next, Star Wars Jedi Survival. Of course, I had to jump into the second game after beating Fallen Order. I was absolutely invested in Cal's journey. That led me to Star Wars Survivor. It is, just as I thought, better than the first. Yes, it's hard to say that a sequel is sometimes better than the original, but in this case, I feel like it is. It's a sequel done right, honestly. The biggest W for me is that Respawn didn't pull that annoying Metrovania amnesia, where you actually start with your powers instead of, I forgot how to swing a lightsaber. Nope, you are powerful from the start. The double jump, the push, pull, it's all there day one. And it makes Cal feel like a legit Jedi Knight instead of a Padawan who just conveniently forgot how to use the Force. The story is still top tier and way more mature this time around, though. It's got the dark, gritty Empire era vibes that were really driving into Cal's struggle being a survivor. The new stance system is also a lot of fun. Switching between crossguard for heavy hits and blaster stance for that scoundrel flavor feels fluid. And you really want to pick your stances per fight, which is also amazing. The world building on Kobu is amazing, with tons of hidden side bosses and hidden loot that actually make exploration not feel like a grind. The performance at launch was but once you get past that now, because I feel like it's in a really, really good state now, it's easily one of the best Star Wars experiences. It's rare to see a sequel that respects the player's progress this much, but it makes the power trip feel earned. So, if you liked Fallen Order, this is a must play for you. Last but not least, Silent Hill F. Silent Hill F is a massive swing for the franchise, and as a longtime fan who's been chasing that Silent Hill 2 high for years, I'm happy to say that this is actually a total. Moving the setting to 1960s Japan was actually genius. Red spider lily aesthetic is creepy. It honestly looks, very, very good on the current gen hardware. The shift from that rusty industrial decay to a beautiful blue floral horror is a major vibe check that actually makes the series feel fresh again. I'll be honest though, for the first half of the game, I was kind of lost. The narrative is super abstract, and I was starting to worry that the story is going to be a total nothing. I kept asking myself if this was a Silent Hill game or just some weird botanical fever dream. As the game went on, I started to put the pieces together, and I realized that everything that was happening for a reason, and you don't find out until you play more of the game, which is really nice. And not just telling me the backstory in the first 20 minutes of the game, You play the game and you start to put the pieces together, and then you're like, oh, that's why I did this mission. That's why I was in this location. But the final act is goated. Everything just clicks into place during the last few hours, and all those what the moments beginning, it's a massive payoff. It wraps up with that classic soul-crushing emotional weight that we expect from the series, and the way that it ties back to the core lore. Total, wow. A slow burn for sure, but if you can push that early game confusion, the ending, absolute banger. Silent Hill F is a must play. There you have it, 23 games that I beat in 2025 and what I thought of them. Now, that doesn't mean that those are the only games that I played. No, no, no. Those games are the only ones that I beat. Stay tuned here in the upcoming weeks for a video that games I tried in 2025 but could not get through them or just simply didn't want to finish. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I thank you guys. I appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next one.